Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
Overjoyed to welcome someone who is very near and dear to my heart as a guest to the show today. Her name is Cheryl Howell. She has spent her corporate career as a commercial banker. She has led high-performance teams for some of America's biggest commercial banks. Cheryl is a transformational trainer that inspires individuals and employees to become leaders who continually pursue excellence, direct goals toward personal ambitions, while instilling the principles of maintaining a solid, consistent work ethic. She is also a certified trainer of the Canfield methodology, a proven system of habits, behaviors, and attitudes developed by America's leading success coach, Jack Canfield. Mr. Canfield's blueprint for top achievers, the book, The Success Principles, started Cheryl on the journey of living, learning, and loving herself. Now Cheryl uses her own expertise to bring others this powerful fusion of corporate and personal experiences to show how pain can become your greatest teacher, your greatest gift. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm so happy to have you.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
Let's jump right in. Cheryl, what inspired you to do the work you're doing today?
Well, and you mentioned a brief excerpt of it from my bio. Mm-hmm. I have a background of pain and trauma. And I was at a place in my life where it was very, very dark. And I got my hands on some work by Jack Canfield, which was his years and years ago, the self-esteem work, because I had no self-esteem. And I became a self-help junkie. And this is in my early 20s. But in working with that type of material, I began to see myself bloom in ways that I never dreamed possible. And I actually started work on my own self-esteem experience. Now, it was not until many years later that I actually started my deep growth and spiritual journey. But that work inspired me early on to hook in to the promise of hope for more. And although it didn't happen all at once, but it was literally a point in my life that changed when I began to see the things that were possible in my own life. And this is back in the day when all you had was the library and books and cassette tapes. I'm aging myself here, but however, I listened to everything on self-help the library had. And so I would have to say, if you're going back to the original point of what inspired me to do this work, that would be where I developed my love for it.
I love that. And, because some people look at finding that purpose or that greater work that you're meant to do as this thing that you have to search for, and we all have a unique purpose, right? A greater work that we're ultimately meant to do. But as you said, that does come from a culmination of experiences. Our purpose is just as much about the day-to-day things that we experience. So I love that you shared that.
Well, thank you. It's one of the things I'm really passionate about is that people find themselves right where they are.
I agree. Cheryl, every experience in our lives shapes who we are. And we talked about how the day-to-day experiences can contribute, to living purposefully and finding our purpose. Is there one experience in your life that you feel has been the most significant in shaping who you've become?
As I think about that, there are so many, and I do think It's our response to the cumulative experiences in our life that bring us to our breakthroughs, our mission, so to speak. But if I had to isolate it down to an experience, I would have to say my childhood, because my childhood framed all of my limiting beliefs, all of my fears. I was born to elderly parents who really didn't want another child. There was abuse in the home. There was abusive behavior. There was alcoholism. And I'm not saying this because, everybody's got a sad story, and that's what makes them. But it was those experiences that framed early on very unlearned resilience. I did not realize how resilient I had become as that child in that environment. I felt abandoned, and for survival purposes, I would take long walks, and I became very introspective. And one of my success points today is that I'm very introspective with people and asking them very definite questions that they need to get in touch with themselves, inside of themselves. And that experience as a child and having to reach deep and to make sense out of a bad situation, and to be able to spend that time in introspection was an early gift that I was given, that I can't tell you how effective it is in the work that I do today. Now, again, those early childhood experiences were not grounded in any type of what you would think back then that would have been a good experience. But as I've progressed as an adult, and as I've gone through things with an adult, after I left that experience as a child and then married very, very young and had an abusive spouse who I ended up having to leave, and left flat broke with 2 small children and trying to figure out how I was going to live. And this is when I became acquainted with the self-esteem work from Jack Canfield. Because if it had not been for all of these little things in my life, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I could have very possibly been a suicide victim. But, I am so convinced that the universe has so much in store for us. And if we open our eyes and see and reframe the things. As a matter of fact, I have an article of reframe, recharge, recreate article on my website, my blog. It is so crucial in our growth process and in our journey to find the things that in our experience become life-changing events for us. And those early days as a child and living through some of the things I did, and then going through as an adult and finding my way, have been the thing that it makes me the person I am today. It's the experience that I share with other people that gives them hope. Because if I can do and become and succeed at the things that I have done and become, this is wide open for anyone. It's not for a certain class of people. It's for all people. And that love exists in a community of amazing people that not only help and support you, but live that way day to day. And a lot of people don't think it's possible for them, but it is truly possible. And that experience, if I had to isolate it to one, Jennifer, it would be the early lessons I learned in a very adverse environment.
And that is such a valuable lesson, that you've shared, because it's true. You could have gone down a very different path, but you chose not to, and that's the key. And I've always believed that there are events that happen, circumstances that happen in life that we don't have control over, even as young children, but we have a choice in how we want to shape our destiny. And it's just amazing at the level of self-awareness that you had at that age to be able to do that. Anything is truly possible. So many people, kind of go throughout life feeling like they're a victim of circumstance, right? Like life just kind of happens to them. But we can make life happen for us by living purposefully, by living intentionally, by making different choices regardless of our circumstances.
Absolutely. And, I do want to clarify that, the starting of the journey came in pieces. And that's why I want the message to resonate so with people 40 and older, because even though I felt I was quote unquote enlightened or resilient to some of the things that I went through, I still got angry. I spent a large part of my 30s just angry at my mother for, things that happened, angry at my dad, angry at my ex-husband, angry that my life was not what it was supposed to be. And this is supposed to be the best years of my life, which is why I wrote one of my courses is called Get Angry, because that so resonates with me, that the anger, when I got past the anger, I realized that when I got in touch with that anger, that's when I began to heal. That anger is an emotion just next door to love. It is almost the principle of polarity and of opposites, of hot and cold. You are so close. If you reframe that anger into that was it wasn't a good thing that happened to you, but there is an underlying purpose. And how are you going to use it? You said the word choice. How are we going to choose to reframe the things we've gone through? And then how are we going to be responsible to ourselves? It's to ourselves we've got to be responsible to. We are nothing to anyone else. We can't help someone else until we first see it in ourselves and love ourselves and not judge ourselves for the things. It was a judgment all those years that my life wasn't what it needed to be. My life was abundant, and my life is abundant today, and your life can be abundant in any situation you're in if you choose to reframe the things that happen to you and grab a hold of the potential that what you have. Your people's own personal experiences are such a voice for others. And when I got in touch with that, it was life-changing for me.
There is so much wisdom to unpack from what you just said. I'm going to pull out a couple of things that really especially stood out. One is the importance around processing our emotions. So many people, and I say it sometimes too, think positive, but then I show people how, right?
Right.
There's a lot of stuff out there about think positive and just be positive. And I feel like sometimes that can lead people to believe that they have to put a happy face sticker on things, right? And that's really not it. Like, you don't want to suppress your emotions, because when you do that, it not only, the anger continues to build, but it also manifests itself in other ways, such as health issues, disease.
Right.
I call it dis-ease, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, everything is connected, but it's so important to allow yourself to not be okay, to process that and to really understand, what you can learn from it, how you can choose to move forward. And the other piece that I wanted to bring up that's connected to that, right, is personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if something was your fault or not. You have to be responsible for how you choose to move forward from here.
Right.
No one is going to save you. but yourself. You have to be your number one fan. You have to be your own hero. You have to take charge of how you want to live your life regardless of what has happened in the past. That doesn't mean that there isn't a process of healing that needs to occur, like we were just talking about. But regardless of fault, you've got to be responsible for yourself.
That's right. And to forgive.
Yes.
It's twofold. You have to take responsibility. And a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to be responsible. And then they continue to be angry. But the two go hand in hand. But I have found in my own life, when I finally took responsibility for all of the situations that occurred, then as a result of taking my responsibility in the situation, that if I'm going to change, it's up to me, it's amazing that you start to lighten up, and it opens the door to forgiveness. It's, because people, I was told, well, you have to forgive. No, I don't have to do anything. But when you put yourself in a place of, okay, I have acceptance, I'm gonna do what's good for me, then the energy of that begins to work in your heart. And then step upon step, your heart begins to see that the forgiveness comes as a result of the acceptance. And I never knew that until I experienced it. And that's the things I talk about, because because I am introspective. I dig into things like that. Now, if I were speaking to someone in the corporate world, I would say, you need to have a board meeting with yourself. Let's go inside and just close our eyes, and let's picture ourselves a third party, and just have a board meeting with yourself and begin to unpack some of that stuff that's in that space of anger, of blame, of victimization. And when you do that, you begin to see objectively the problem, because you're putting a layer between you and the personal aspect of it. But it's just amazing that when people do that, then it does open their hearts to forgiveness is easier. And forgiveness is not something, people should not judge themselves because they don't immediately forgive. But forgiveness is a process, because when I change, the energy around me changes. And I've seen this happen in my own family, that when I decided what was right for me and I committed to it, then changes in people close to me I never thought would happen have occurred. And that is strictly personal for me, and it can be the experience of other people. It is the magic of the energy of the universe. It's alchemy. Just amazing.
It's alchemy. It's beautiful. Yes, it's happened with me as well. Cheryl, what advice do you have for others who are feeling called to do more? There's a lot of people out there who are at a crossroads that want to maybe use their wisdom to make a greater impact. What would you say to those people to help them move forward?
I would say stop wishing to do it and just do it. Wishing is just having a feeling or a desire for something. But what really turns your wishes and desires into the essence, into form, into reality, is putting action to those desires. I could want to be a spiritual guru and help people all day, and sitting up in the corner meditating all the time is not going to do any good for humanity. I think it's an important aspect of our process, but I would have to put action to that place from which I have been, and from my inner experience to help others outwardly. I mentioned to you, excuse me, that I was challenged to put what I do in a sentence and how I feel in a sentence. And, You can tell I'm not shy about talking. So that was, but when I really meditated and thought about it, I came to realize that part of my compassion for wanting to help others is this message of personal responsibility. And so I compassionately and lovingly inspire people to believe in and becoming responsible to themselves and accountable to themselves for creating and living empowered lives. And I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think they're necessary. I think we have to have a passion and a vision and a desire to create things in our own personal lives and perhaps for others. But if somebody is interested in coaching, that's the advice I would give. You obviously are stirred on the inside to do more and be more, but saying it is not going to create it. Step into it, lean into it, and be responsible for creating that, because that is no accident you feel that way.
It's so true. I always say that God never puts a dream on our heart that isn't meant to be achieved.
Right?
I really believe that with all my heart and my being.
I do too. And I'm passionate about that message. I believe people can accomplish anything they want to accomplish. And I think and I know this because I was that person. I was writing when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I have so many notes and journals, and I was going back and finding some the other day it was about 15 years ago. That desire and that urge has been with me for a very long time. And I don't question the timing that it is just now, because my life experiences have brought me to this point. But where I'm at now, with having a corporate career and having learned so much from corporate, that's a whole other segment of people that I can reach out to, because I understand that world. So I have a real keen sense of introspection from the individual standpoint and the personal standpoint, that these people are in the workplace every day. So how can we thrive in the workplace? It's the same principles that apply to you as an individual in the workplace.
Definitely. Cheryl, if someone is interested in learning more about you and what you're up to, and they just want to chat and connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
Well, my website, I'm so excited about my website, but it's www.cherylhowell.com. I'm also on Facebook. You can Google me at Cheryl Howell, and you'll get Facebook. I'm on Instagram, the Adversity Coach on Instagram, and that's my website as well. I have my email, Cheryl@cherylhowell.com. You'll find that on my website. You can reach out to me in any of those ways. And I would love to start conversation. This is where my passion is, and I could talk all day about how you can change your life with a mere thought. And that's a whole nother area, Jennifer, that I cover in my course, the power of, I call it the triangle of thoughts, because there has to be a perfect alignment between our thoughts and our feelings. And our mind, body, and spirit principle, it's thoughts, feelings, whatever those two do, that's what you're going to create in your life.
Yeah, that's my zone of genius too. I could talk to you for weeks about that. I love it. I just love it. I love everything that you're doing. Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. It's been an honor. I just really such a joy to connect with you again.
Oh, thank you. And I love you so much. And I so love the work you're doing. And so thank you for doing these podcasts and for sharing them with others, so that people can get the information they need to change their lives.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and On Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakeandonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.